Welcome to the radio, my friends. What time is it where you are right now? And where in the world are you listening from? Whether you're stretched out on your couch or curled into bed with a blanket over your head, I'm glad you're here. If the quiet is settling in and you're ready for something gentle, you're in the right place. Feel free to subscribe if you'd like more slow evenings like this. Tonight, you'll be standing behind a faded counter, in a store that smells faintly of popcorn dust and plastic clamshell cases. The aisles are quiet. The world outside has started to move on, but you haven't, not just yet. The key rattles a little in the front door as you let yourself in. The neon sign above the glass flickers like it always does. The "O" in video still refuses to light up unless you tap the window twice with the side of your hand. You do it without thinking, and the sign finally steadies into a soft glow that hums faintly against the early evening quiet. The strip mall outside is almost empty now, just one old sedan angled badly into a parking space 2 spots down. Inside, the air is cool and smells of stale carpet cleaner and worn-out plastic. The store's layout never changed. The new releases still line the front wall, the action and horror sections tucked neatly beside them, and the rest of the genres meander toward the back in slightly uneven rows. The checkout counter creaks when you lean against it. You always meant to fix that. The fluorescent lights above cast everything in that bluish tint that makes people look a little paler than they are. But it's comforting now. You know every bulb that's gone out, every shelf that sags just a bit. You can still hear the old VHS rewinder in the backroom clicking faintly to itself like a mechanical cricket. The tapes returned last night are stacked in a leaning pile beside it, some still with those bright orange stickers that say, "Be kind, rewind." You flip open the cash register, not because you expect anyone to come in, but because that's how the day starts. The drawer opens with a thunk. The quarters are already counted, the pennies always over by a few. You used to correct it, but somewhere along the way, you stopped caring if the till was perfect. The posters on the wall are faded now. One of them, a grinning Will Smith holding up a pair of sunglasses, is peeling slightly at the corner. Someone once spilled soda beneath it, and the bottom edge is still a little warped. You leave it there. It fits. Everything in here is about a half step behind. The bell above the door jingles faintly when you nudge it open again, just to let in some air. Outside, the wind carries a few leaves across the parking lot, and you can hear the muffled sound of a kid skateboarding somewhere nearby, his wheels clacking unevenly against the sidewalk seams. A small plastic stand near the front window holds a rack of blank membership forms. You haven't given one out in months. But they're still there, stacked neatly, ready for the next person who asks. You still refill the free popcorn machine too, even though most of it ends up stale by closing. It's just habit now. Ritual, maybe. The smell of it drifts through the aisles, buttery and faintly synthetic, comforting in the way an old sweater is. There's a moment where you stand there, behind the counter, and listen. The silence is clean. No music plays unless you put on the battered stereo in the back. No hum of screens, no autoplay trailers, no algorithm suggesting what comes next. Just rows of cases, all identical in shape and size, each with its own small world tucked inside. You can still remember which ones are mismarked, which copies have tracking issues near the end credits, which clamshells never quite snap shut properly. The stool behind the counter has a worn patch right where your right elbow rests. The TV beside you is still hooked up to the ancient VCR that only works if you wedge a business card beneath it. You used to run movies on it during slow nights, sometimes to fill the silence, sometimes because it felt wrong not to. Tonight, you don't turn it on. Not yet. The quiet feels like something you earned. Somewhere near the back, the horror section creaks softly. Not from anything supernatural, just the floorboard that always complains when it's humid. You told yourself 100 times you'd fix it, but honestly, you'd miss the sound. It's like the store saying hello. A paper sign in the window reads, "Tuesdays, 2 for 1 rentals," in thick marker, slightly smudged from the heat last week. No one came in Tuesday. Or Wednesday. One guy yesterday, but he just browsed. Said he was looking for something to remind him of high school. Didn't find it. You nodded and told him to try the comedy section. He smiled and left without renting anything. The doorbell jingled as he went. The soda fridge hums in the corner like a lazy wasp. There's a single can of root beer inside, sitting like it's waiting for someone who forgot they wanted it. You're not sure how long it's been there. You open the door just to check. Still cold. Still fizzing if you shake it gently near your ear. You sit on the stool, resting your elbows on the counter. The store is quiet, but not empty. It has weight, and warmth, and all the familiar dust of something well used. Nothing feels urgent here. Nothing feels gone, not completely. You ease off the stool, legs stretching a little as you move. The floor beneath your shoes is smooth and scuffed in just the right places, like a path worn down by years of pacing the same route. You start along the front aisle, where the new releases section pretends it's still the most exciting place in town. The titles are a mix now, DVDs creeping in among the VHS tapes like curious tourists who never left. The covers are glossier, a little too clean. You always thought they looked smug. Your finger trails along the edge of the plastic cases as you pass. There's a light film of dust on a few of them, just enough to prove the passage of time without looking abandoned. You pause in front of the Fast and the Furious, still in its display spot like it's waiting to be discovered for the first time again. You remember how fast that one went out when it dropped. People would fight, politely, but with that customer service gridded smile, over the last copy. Now, all four are here, sitting like retirees on a park bench. Past the action section, you drift into drama. The lighting changes here, just barely. One bulb overhead flickers every few seconds. You tried replacing it, but it only made the flicker more dramatic. It suits the section. There's something theatrical about being bathed in moody shadows while deciding whether to rent A Beautiful Mind or the Royal Tenenbaums for the 6th time. The cases are lined like old books, some with cracked spines, one with a bite mark you never asked about. You pause at the staff picks shelf. It's still there, though the laminated sign is curling at the edges. You made the last picks yourself, 3 weeks ago, when you realized no one else was going to. One is Donnie Darko, you like the weird ones. Another is a dusty copy of Office Space, which feels more like prophecy with each passing month. There's a sticky note on the cover that says, underrated. You don't remember writing it, but the handwriting is yours. A slight breeze tickles the back of your neck. It's from the air conditioning unit above the comedy section, which works only when it wants to. Today, apparently, it wants to. You drift that way, watching a small piece of ceiling tile flutter like it's trying to escape. The titles here are stacked a little more haphazardly, as if the shelves are tired of pretending to be organized. Zoolander. Legally Blonde. Rush Hour 2. You smile, just a little. There's a kind of comfort in knowing you can quote entire scenes from memory, even if you never meant to. Somewhere near the kids section, a standee for Monsters Incorporated leans awkwardly to one side, half deflated, like it's just woken up from a nap it didn't plan on. One of Mike Wazowski's eyes is peeling. You once tried to throw it out, but it made the corner look too empty. So now it stands, sleepy and crooked, like a weird little guardian. You take the long way toward the back, past the westerns. No one ever asks for westerns anymore, but you keep them out of respect. The covers all look the same, grizzled men squinting into sunlight. A tumbleweed would feel right at home here, but all you have is a loose popcorn kernel skittering along the linoleum. Behind the last row, the adult section door stays shut. It's not locked, but the curtain over the small window makes it feel more serious than it is. You haven't checked it in a while. Not because you're avoiding it, but because it's just there, like an old attic you never need to climb into. You walk past it slowly, and the door groans slightly in its frame, then settles. Near the corner, There's a cardboard cutout of a young Keanu Reeves holding a phone, The Matrix Reloaded. You once caught a customer bowing slightly to it on their way out, completely sincere. You never brought it up. Some things are better left as small mysteries. You reach the back wall where the shelves thin out and the genres get weirder. Foreign films. Documentaries. One shelf labeled simply Miscellaneous, with a hand-drawn question mark on it. It's where all the misfit tapes go, the ones with faded covers or labels that have partially peeled away. You keep them around like stray cats. Every once in a while, someone rents one and says, "Huh. That was actually really good." You run your hand along the top shelf, feeling the fine layer of dust collect against your fingertips. Nothing here is in a rush. The cases will still be here tomorrow. Or not. It doesn't seem to matter either way. You pause by the emergency exit. A faded sign warns of an alarm, but you know it hasn't worked in years. Through the tiny window, you can see the alley behind the building, lit by the flicker of an old streetlight. There's a damp smell, distant and faint, like old brick and rain that never fully dried. Back inside, the silence greets you again, not cold, not empty. Just present. You breathe in the faint mix of dust, plastic, and popcorn oil. The store feels like a deep exhale held in time, a slow pause no one noticed. Near the counter, tucked between the faded staff apron and a drawer full of unmatched pens, sits the logbook. It's not impressive. The cover is bent and soft at the corners, the spiral binding a little warped from years of being knocked over or closed too hard. But your hand reaches for it almost without thinking. This, more than the register or the flickering neon sign, is the thing that makes the store feel like yours. You open it to the most recent page. The handwriting is familiar, mostly yours now, but every few entries, someone else's scribble interrupts. An old employee's name. A part-timer from 2 summers ago. A delivery guy who once drew a terrible sketch of a velociraptor in the margins. Each entry is dated, though not always legibly, and notes things like, Section B shelf wobbly again, or, customer asked for Titanic and cried at the counter. There's something strangely comforting in the predictability of it. Even the ink smudges and crossed-out lines feel like tiny fossils. You flip backward a few pages. Late 2001. The margins are full of scribbles about release dates, returns, and which copies of Shrek keep skipping at the swamp scene. One note simply says, popcorn machine aggressive today. You don't remember writing it, but it sounds like something you'd say. You keep a pen clipped to the front of the logbook, though it rarely works on the first try. You click it twice, draw a squiggle in the corner, and write today's date at the top. There's nothing much to report. You stare at the blank line for a few seconds, then just write, quiet again. Good light at 4 p.m. You leave the book open on the counter. It always feels wrong to close it. The pages catch the overhead light in that soft matte way old paper does, not shiny, not slick, just absorbent. As if it's still taking in more than it gives back. Behind you, the phone sits on its cradle. It hasn't rung today. Probably won't. But you still glance at it now and then, expecting it to buzz with someone asking if you have that movie where the guy is stuck in a dream or maybe outer space or possibly both. You used to be good at solving those riddles. Still are, probably. You just get fewer chances now. Next to the logbook is your coffee mug. It's chipped on the rim, right where your lip tends to land. It has the store's name on it in flaking blue letters, and below that, in smaller print, we've got what you're looking for. You always thought the slogan was too confident. Half the time people came in not knowing what they wanted. But they usually left with something, which counted for more. You lift the mug, then put it down again. The coffee inside is from earlier, lukewarm, mostly evaporated, the smell just a hint of what it was. Still, you don't rinse it out. It feels lived in. Earned. Like the grooves in the floor or the way the ceiling tile near the back always seems to sag a little more when it rains. The glass counter holds more than just tapes. There's a small drawer underneath filled with odds and ends, a broken loyalty card stamp, a few foreign coins, a faded Polaroid of someone in a Halloween costume standing beside the cardboard cutout of Frodo Baggins. You never found out who it was. Could have been a customer. Could have been someone who just wandered in. One shelf below the register holds your collection of misplaced rentals. These are the ones people never returned. Not the big titles, no one keeps those, but the strange ones. Obscure documentaries. B-grade thrillers. A stop-motion Christmas movie that made one kid cry so hard his mom called to complain. You keep them lined up in a neat little row, their spines facing out like guilty secrets. You pick one at random. The case clicks in your hand as you turn it over. The back cover is sun-faded, the synopsis mostly guesswork. No barcode. No stickers. Just a name written in marker, Return to Harmony. You don't remember ordering it. You set it back in place, and it fits so snugly between the others it feels like it never left. Outside, the light is soft now. That early evening kind of pale orange, where the world starts to quiet down but hasn't quite committed to sleep. Through the window, you can see your own reflection faintly layered over the storefront opposite, a convenience store that closed last spring. You still catch yourself expecting their lights to be on. Back inside, you reach under the counter and pull out the old cloth you used to wipe the glass. It's mostly useless, more memory than tool. You give the counter a slow, circular wipe anyway. There's a fingerprint smudge that's probably been there for 3 weeks. You don't bother scrubbing hard. Just enough to know it was noticed. Then you sit again. Not with a sigh, just emotion. You look at the logbook, the mug, the stack of blank rental slips. They're not important. But they're also not nothing. They're yours. You don't look at the clock. You don't need to. The store tells time in its own way, by the light through the front windows, by the way the hum of the fridge grows louder as night approaches, by the shifting of the air when the traffic out front slows to the occasional single car passing like a quiet breath. Your stool creaks as you settle in again, feet gently brushing the floor. One shoe taps softly against the leg of the counter. You don't mean to, but the rhythm is slow, steady, almost like a heartbeat you weren't aware of needing. You shift your weight. The stool rocks a bit, then finds balance. Stillness, not silence. The fan above you spins lazily. It clicks once every few turns. You've never been able to fix that either. Someone once offered to look at it, some regular who claimed to be handy with old machines, but they never came back. Now, the click is part of the rhythm. Click. Whir. Pause. A kind of punctuation on the soft hush of the store. The light through the windows has cooled. It's no longer golden, just a soft gray, like the inside of a cotton sleeve. The aisles stretch into dimness. You can still see the shapes of the tapes, the faded colors of the posters, the quiet silhouettes of forgotten favorites. None of them seem to mind the lack of attention. You breathe slowly, feeling the chair beneath you, the counter under your arms. Your elbows rest where they always do. The laminate has dulled there. It holds the shape of your habits. There's something gently absurd about it, as if the building has taken note of your posture and decided to accommodate it permanently. Somewhere behind you, a tape rewinder clicks. Finished. You don't move to grab the tape. You just listen to the sound fade, letting it mark the moment like a bell in the distance. You can rewind it again later if you feel like it. Or not. No one's waiting for that copy of Men in Black 2. Not tonight. The scent of the place thickens in this hour, a mixture of warm dust, paper, and a faint undercurrent of plastic that always reminded you of raincoats. It's strange how you've grown to like it. Or maybe you always did. Your nose filters it down now into something nostalgic. Like being under a blanket with a flashlight, flipping through catalogs of things you'll never buy. You can hear your own breathing. It doesn't startle you. It's soft. Present. A little deeper than usual, maybe. Your body feels a bit heavier, but not in a way that weighs you down. More like it belongs here. Like gravity is doing a favor for once, keeping you exactly where you want to be. The small calendar on the wall still says April, even though it's well past that. You never flipped it. The photo is of a beach somewhere generic, with a single red umbrella stuck defiantly in the sand. You stare at it for a moment, then forget it's even there. You pull the receipt paper out a bit from the register and tear it off without really thinking. The paper curls instantly. You watch it uncurl slowly, like it's relaxing too. You set it down beside the mug, where it lays like a paper noodle with no agenda. Your hands settle in your lap. Your fingers don't twitch. They don't need to be busy. They just rest, the way hands do when they're not expected to hold anything. You let your eyes drift across the room. Nothing moves. Nothing needs to. The building hums around you, not loudly, not insistently, just there. A kind of background presence, like a cat asleep at the foot of a bed. You start to count the bulbs overhead, not out of boredom, just because your eyes land there. 6. 7. One flickering. One out completely. You nod to yourself, though there's no one to see. The store always felt better like this. Not full. Not bustling. Just breathing. You look toward the door, but not expecting it to open. You've stopped expecting that. Instead, you focus on the worn mat beneath it, the way the fibers have flattened into a shape that almost resembles the word welcome, even though the letters wore off long ago. Your chest rises. Falls. You feel the air against your skin. It isn't cold. It isn't warm. It just is. You don't speak. There's nothing to say. No announcements. No reminders. No thoughts tapping at the edges of your brain. Just the feeling of sitting exactly where you should be, in a place the world has mostly forgotten, but that remembers you, completely. If this quiet little corner of the world feels right to you so far, consider subscribing to Quilloren Radio. There's always room for you here, especially when the world feels like it's changing too fast. At some point, the lines begin to soften. The edge of the counter seems rounder than before, as if it had quietly exhaled when you weren't looking. The fan above continues its slow rotation, but the sound has changed, more like the gentle shuffle of cards being dealt in another room. You're still seated, still in the same position, yet something in the room feels just a few degrees off from where it used to be. The aisles stretch out ahead, longer than they should be. You know the layout of the store like your own handwriting, but now, the comedy section seems a few steps farther than usual. You blink slowly. The lighting hasn't changed, but the shadows on the carpet feel a little softer, as if the bulbs decided to whisper instead of shine. You glance toward the front window. The neon sign outside is still lit, but the letters have shuffled slightly. It still says video, more or less. The eye leans a bit now, almost sheepishly, as if it's apologizing for standing too straight all these years. The reflection in the glass no longer matches the room exactly. Your stool is there, but you're not. Or perhaps you are, just a little out of sync. A breeze curls through the air from somewhere, not cold, not warm, not anything in particular. It carries the scent of popcorn that hasn't been made in hours and a memory of a cherry slushie that once spilled across the floor near the horror section. You didn't clean it up quickly enough. There's still a faint pink stain under the shelf, shaped vaguely like Nebraska. You always meant to scrub it, but now it feels like an artifact. The standee of Keanu Reeves is still near the back, but now he's holding a book instead of a phone. You stare for a moment, uncertain. It's not a real book, just a cardboard suggestion of one. The title is unreadable, but the expression on his face is serene, as if he knows you've noticed and approves. You nod at him, and his paper-thin smile seems to twitch just slightly. As you stand and stretch your legs, the carpet beneath your feet feels spongier than usual, not wet, just softened. Each step has a slow give to it, like walking on a thick blanket or through a memory that hasn't quite settled. You make your way down an aisle, maybe the romance section, though the labels seem to be missing now. The covers are blank, but the cases are warm to the touch. You pause beside the staff picks shelf. The movies have rearranged themselves. A copy of Groundhog Day sits beside Lost in Translation and something handwritten that simply says, Thursday, probably. You don't remember ever placing that one there. You reach out and touch it. The case purrs faintly beneath your fingertips. You decide to leave it be. A low murmur comes from the children's section. Not voices, more like the sound of pages turning in a distant book. The paper cutout of Mike Wazowski has repositioned itself to sit more comfortably against the wall. His eye is closed now. Or maybe it's just turned sideways. Either way, he looks like he's resting. The back wall of the store ripples ever so slightly. Not dramatically, just enough to give the impression that it's breathing along with you. The rows of shelves sway, not side to side, but inward, like a slow inhale. You stand still and let them do what they need to do. Somewhere, impossibly, a seagull calls out. Just once. Brief and clean. You consider that maybe someone left a nature documentary playing in the back room. Or maybe the rewinder has learned new tricks. Either explanation feels equally reasonable. The fluorescent light nearest the horror section flickers 3 times and then emits a long, contented sigh. That's new. You give it a small salute. You pass by the return bin. It's full now, though you're certain it was empty earlier. The topmost case is labeled Some Things Come Back. The tape inside has no label, no runtime. Just a small piece of masking tape with your initials on it. You don't recall putting it there. You don't pick it up. A single piece of popcorn rests near your foot. Perfectly round. No kernel, just puff. You step over it carefully, not wanting to disturb whatever piece it's found. You walk toward the front window again. The cars outside aren't moving, but not because of traffic. They're just paused. Not frozen, just thoughtful. Like they're waiting for the right moment to start again. You look down at your hands. They're the same as always, but there's a faint scent of sticker glue and a crumpled receipt you don't remember writing. It says, late fee waived. Memory returned on time. You tuck it into your pocket. The shift is subtle, the kind of change you only notice because everything else is so still. It starts with the light. Not brighter, not darker, just quieter. The sun outside has tucked itself behind the clouds, casting the store in that soft, directionless glow you usually only get in the hour before rain. The windows don't fog, but they look like they want to. You rise from the stool again, slowly, knees creaking just a little as they straighten. The sound fits the room. You stretch your arms behind your back, and something in your shoulder cracks with the kind of relief that doesn't ask for attention. Your hands settle against the edge of the counter as you lean forward, just enough to lift your heels from the floor. Something has shifted in the aisles. Not their shape or position, but their tone. The colors of the cases are a touch deeper, as if they've absorbed a memory. Aisle 3 has always been a little crooked, but now it leans in a way that feels almost polite, like it's trying not to intrude. The tapes aren't crooked. They're aligned with impossible precision, every spine facing forward, every title visible without needing to tilt your head. You step toward them. The floor doesn't creak this time. It holds your footsteps carefully, like it has decided to help you move without disturbing anything. You reach the first row and run a finger across the shelf. No dust now. Just smooth plastic. You pause in front of a title that looks familiar. The cover is the same as you remember, but the tagline is different. It says something quiet, something only for you, though the words vanish the moment you try to reread them. A small breeze brushes across your shoulder. You glance behind you. The front door is closed. So is the side exit. Still, the air shifts as though someone had just walked by, someone you didn't see but who didn't mind being noticed. Near the back, the cardboard cutout of Keanu Reeves has turned slightly, just a few degrees. He now faces the aisle you're standing in. You think about adjusting it but decide not to. He looks comfortable there, like he's watching over the shelves for you. His book is still tucked under his arm, unreadable but somehow familiar. The horror section hums gently. The flickering bulb above it is steady now. Not fixed, exactly, but calm. The cases glow faintly in the low light, not in any supernatural way, just the glow of things that have been touched and remembered. You don't step into the aisle. You just stand at the edge and listen. You notice the popcorn machine has stopped humming. It usually runs all day, whether or not it's being used. Now it sits quiet and clean. The kernels inside have shifted into a perfect spiral, a small arrangement that feels deliberate. You smile a little and turn away. At the counter, the mug is gone. Not misplaced. Just not there. In its place is a small coaster with the store's logo etched into it. You don't remember ever having coasters, but this one seems like it has always been there. The logbook is still open, but the ink looks a little darker, the words written with a firmer hand. Someone has added a note beneath your last entry. It simply says, "You were here." You sit again, not out of habit, but because the moment calls for it. The stool feels newly balanced, like it has grown tired of its old creak and decided to rest as well. You place your hands on your knees, palms down, feeling the weight of your arms settle without effort. No need to fidget. No need to move. The stillness is not empty. It is full of noticing. Across the store, the shelves seem to breathe. Nothing dramatic. Just a gentle motion, like a curtain shifting in a breeze you cannot feel. You stare for a while, long enough for your eyes to blur slightly. When you blink, they're still. Or they never moved. The glass door reflects your outline, and for a moment, it doesn't match your posture. Just a moment. Then it does again. You think about standing. You think about rewinding something. You don't. Not because you are resisting it, but because your body knows it isn't time. The temperature has evened out. Not warm. Not cold. Just present. The kind of air that doesn't push or retreat. It surrounds you, carries you lightly, allows you to stay without needing to do anything. A car passes outside. Its sound is muted, like it drove through a memory rather than a street. You catch the tail end of a song, something from the radio, but the lyrics are lost. Only the feeling remains. It's enough. The clock on the wall still reads the same time. You know it's wrong. You don't correct it. You haven't corrected it in months. But now, for some reason, it feels exactly right. You tilt your head back slightly, just enough to rest your gaze on the ceiling. The ceiling tile in the far corner has shifted, revealing a tiny patch of sky beyond the edge of the frame. Or maybe it's just discolored plaster. You prefer not to look too closely. Your body is quiet. The store is quieter. But nothing feels gone. You don't notice when you start to settle. It just happens. One hand rests on the counter, then the other, and soon you're leaning forward, elbows tucked in, the weight of the day dissolving into the laminate surface. The room hasn't changed, but it feels softer now. Like the walls have leaned inward just slightly, close enough to wrap around you, not to trap, but to hold. Your breathing slows. The pattern of it becomes noticeable, not because it's loud, but because it's the only rhythm left. Even the hum of the light seems to have quieted out of respect. You inhale, let it sit for a moment, then release it through your nose. You do it again. And again. Not to control it. Just to feel it. There's a warmth that creeps in through your sleeves. Not heat exactly, just a memory of it. The kind that comes from sweaters fresh out of the dryer, or the seat of a car left in the sun too long. You let it spread without question. It doesn't ask anything from you. It just arrives, and stays. The chair behind the counter is familiar. It rocks slightly when you sit in it, the back legs uneven. It's done that for years. You remember trying to fix it once, folding a piece of cardboard underneath one foot. It held for about 3 days before collapsing with a quiet wheeze. You never tried again. Some things just are. The binders on the shelves behind you are color-coded, though nobody really uses them anymore. You reach for the red one, half from habit. Inside are old incident reports, customer complaints, once important notes scribbled on printer paper and tucked into plastic sleeves. You flip through a few, then let it fall shut. It makes a soft thump, like a thought being closed. Your eyes wander up to the small analog clock near the door. The second hand twitches, then stalls. It's been stuck like that for weeks. You'd meant to fix it, but somehow, not knowing the exact time has been a small relief. You know roughly where you are in the day. That's enough. The light outside is golden and a little thick. Late afternoon, probably. Or early evening. It doesn't matter. A car passes outside, the tires dragging along the gravel in that particular way that only happens when the road is dry. You don't look to see who it is. Just listen. The sound fades, leaving nothing behind. Not even a dust trail. There's a smell in the room you hadn't noticed before. Faint plastic, the kind you only catch when you lean close to a freshly opened case. There's also something floral, maybe from someone's lotion left behind, or a forgotten air freshener wedged behind the cash drawer. It's subtle. Comfortable. It mixes with the cool, familiar scent of conditioned air that's been moving through the vents for too many years to count. You lean your head back and let it rest on the wall behind you. It's solid. Slightly cold. You close your eyes and leave them there, not for sleep, just stillness. Your ears pick up the smallest sounds now. A plastic case shifting on a shelf. The tiny pop of the ceiling tile expanding. Your own breathing, steady, soft, reliable. You let your feet slide forward, your body folding into itself with the kind of quiet trust that only comes when you've been in one place long enough to forget why you came. You're not worried. There's nothing here to interrupt you. No new releases to unpack. No late returns to catalog. The last few customers have come and gone, each one slower than the last, as if they too sensed that something was winding down. Somewhere in the far corner of the store, one of the fluorescent lights flickers. It's not aggressive. Just a polite reminder that even light has limits. You watch it settle again, giving off that steady glow that's never been flattering, but always been enough. The shadows inside the store have grown a little longer. You let them. They stretch gently across the floor, not reaching for anything, just existing alongside the quiet. You tilt your head to the side and let your vision blur until the edges of everything soften. No shapes. No lines. Just warmth and hush. A breeze nudges against the front window, barely enough to stir the hanging open sign. It sways once, then settles. You don't move. You're a part of this place now, stitched into the shelves and the scuffed tiles and the familiar air. The world can wait. You stand quietly at the counter, one hand resting on the worn surface where the laminate has started to peel at the corners. The overhead lights give off that steady electric buzz, the kind that you've long since stopped noticing but that fills every corner of the store. It's a quiet hour, not quite closing, but edging toward it. The outside light has cooled into that late blue, and the front windows reflect it back faintly. No one's walked in for a while. You don't mind. The air smells like a mix of faded stickers, old vinyl cases, worn carpet, and the occasional ghost of buttered popcorn from the snack shelf that used to stand proudly near the entrance. You can still picture the way the candy boxes and microwave tubs of popcorn were arranged, all too bright and slightly dusty. Cardboard standees loomed awkwardly in the corners, forever grinning at customers who hadn't walked through the door in weeks. One still stands behind the counter, a sun-faded action star with a plastic sword, arm outstretched, frozen mid-swing. You never had the heart to throw it away. You make a slow loop around the store, not to clean or straighten anything, but just to feel the place again. Each aisle has a different rhythm underfoot, depending on how the floor tiles were laid back in the 90s. Some bubble slightly, rising and falling like breath. Your fingers trail lazily along the spines of the remaining VHS tapes, still stacked neatly even though no one rents them anymore. Their colors have dulled, and some of the cases crackle when touched. A few titles haven't moved in years. One tape in particular, an obscure action flick, has been rewound so many times that you suspect the film inside might just be a ghost of what it once was. And yet it waits there, loyal as ever. In the corner, there's a forgotten shelf of documentaries and nature specials. They were never the most popular, always gathering dust, but you liked them. They were quiet, steady, not chasing trends. Their covers were simple. No famous faces. No explosions. Just mountains, rivers, the occasional polar bear. One featured mountain goats clinging to glaciers, narrated by a British voice that made everything sound profound. You watched it during a long, stormy evening once, as thunder rolled and the fluorescent lights flickered. The memory sticks, soft voice, cold rain, static dancing on the old CRT. You drift over to the broken gumball machine near the restroom hallway. Nobody's fixed it in years, but the glass globe still catches light in a soft way that makes it look like an artifact. It's half full of sun-bleached candies that now resemble little fossils. You crouch beside it for a moment, pretending to check if it still works, knowing it won't. Your knees complain when you stand, a subtle reminder that time hasn't just passed for the tapes and posters. The walls are lined with movie posters, curling at the edges, held up by tired pushpins and memory. Some are for films you've seen a dozen times. Others you've forgotten completely, yet the imagery lingers. They've become the wallpaper of your life. You remember when they were new, when someone asked you to tape them up with enthusiasm, believing the next blockbuster would save the store. It never did. But the posters stayed, witnesses to late-night rentals, hurried returns, kids laughing, and couples whispering over rom-coms. Back at the counter, the chair welcomes you with a groan. You sit, not to work, but because this is where you always sat when things were quiet. Behind you, the register blinks softly. It hasn't made a sound in hours. A pen cup leans to one side, full of dried markers and worn receipts. Your mug sits nearby, chipped, stained, but familiar. You cradle it even though the coffee inside is long gone, the warmth now imagined. Outside, a few cars pass without slowing. Their headlights stretch long across the glass front, tracing fading shapes against the aisles. You don't look to see who's inside. You already know it's no one for here. Not anymore. Still, you leave the open sign lit. You haven't flipped it in days, even though the closing hours technically passed 30 minutes ago. There's something about the glow of that red neon, buzzing faintly in the window, that feels like a heartbeat. It says, still here, even when everything else has moved on. You lean back and let the silence settle. Not the absence of sound, but the kind of silence that feels lived in. Like a room that's exhaled. The kind that wraps around you gently, saying nothing needs to happen now. You're not waiting. You're not rushing. You're just existing, in this half-lit room full of stories. The world outside can keep spinning. You've got time. You look around one last time. The shelves. The posters. The hum of the lights. The unspoken goodbye that's been unfolding slowly over the past few years, one rental at a time. And then, you stay seated. Just breathing. Just here. You remember your first day behind the counter. You were younger then, nervous but excited, wearing a slightly oversized polo shirt with the store's logo embroidered above the pocket. It was your first real job, and it felt like stepping into something important. Not glamorous, but steady. People would walk in, ask what was good, and you'd have the answers. You memorized titles, genres, actors, even the obscure directors. You took pride in knowing exactly where everything was. No one ever had to wait long. There was something satisfying about handing over a movie. The small talk, the swiping of the card, the plastic click as the case shut, it felt like completing a ritual. You didn't think of it that way at the time, but now, looking back, that's exactly what it was. A ritual shared between people and stories, wrapped in late fees and rewinds, Friday night cravings and Sunday morning returns. You remember the regulars. The father who came every Thursday night, always renting 2 horror films and 1 animated movie. Said it was to balance out the nightmares. The elderly woman who only rented musicals and never watched anything made after 1975. The teenager who spent 20 minutes pretending to browse, just to work up the courage to rent something R-rated. You saw them all. Watched them grow older, or disappear. You even remember the trends. When westerns faded and space operas surged. When romantic comedies had their golden moment. When suddenly everyone wanted martial arts films, and then, just as quickly, didn't. There were the years of vampire obsessions, then zombies, then superheroes. The aisles adapted. The posters rotated. You got good at predicting the next wave before it even hit. There was a summer when the air conditioner broke. Everyone who walked in pretended it didn't bother them, but you saw the sweat on their necks, the way they lingered less. You brought in a fan from home. It sat behind the desk for years, humming away even after the AC was fixed. People started calling it the store's mascot. You kept it running out of habit, and maybe superstition. Then the small changes began. The DVD section expanded. Fewer people asked about rewinding. More asked if something was available to stream. The shift was subtle at first. A joke here, a comment there. Do people still come here? You guys still kicking? You laughed, then shrugged it off. Told them you were still open 7 days a week. But the questions kept coming. The weekends got quieter. The night rush faded into a trickle. New releases didn't bring the same buzz. Your recommendation board, once lovingly updated with handwritten reviews, sat untouched for weeks. You still updated it, but it felt like you were talking to yourself. Eventually, the candy rack was removed. Fewer kids came in. No one bought it anymore. The stand that held the gift cards vanished next. Then the console games were phased out. Too expensive to keep in stock. The customers asked less and less. Some came just to look, to reminisce. They'd say things like, "Wow, I used to come here all the time," and you'd nod, smile, not mention that you still came here every day. You watched the change creep in, like a fog. Not all at once. Just slowly, invisibly, until one day you realized the background hum of the store had changed. Quieter. Less certain. You noticed the dust more. The sun hit the carpet in the afternoon and revealed the faded patch where the horror section rack once stood. You kept cleaning, organizing, pretending. Sometimes, in the slow hours, you'd take an old movie and put it on the TV behind the counter. Something black and white, or maybe one of those 90s comedies that no one remembers anymore. You liked the way they sounded. Familiar. Like an old friend humming in the background. Customers, when they came in, would glance at the screen and smile. "I remember this one," they'd say, and for a few minutes, the store felt alive again. One evening, a little boy walked in with his dad. probably no older than 7. He ran to the cartoon section, wide-eyed, and asked what a VHS was. You felt something pinch in your chest. You explained it, gently, while his father smiled. The boy held the tape like it was an artifact, confused but curious. He didn't rent anything. Just wanted to see. That moment stayed with you. Now, the store exists in slow motion. Not quite dead. Not quite alive. You don't know how long it'll last. Maybe weeks. Maybe months. Maybe someone will finally decide to pull the plug. But until then, you'll show up. Turn the lights on. Straighten the shelves. Sit at the counter and listen to the hum of memories in plastic cases. Because it's not just a video store. It's your corner of time. And for now, time still moves here. Just a little slower. Just enough. The lights remain on, but their glow softens as the evening deepens, folding gently into the quiet that fills the room. The old CRT television in the corner hums quietly, its screen flickering softly with static that feels more like a pulse, a heartbeat steady and slow. Nearby, the faint ticking of the wall clock marks time in gentle taps, though you barely notice it anymore. Time here has lost its urgency. You don't count minutes or hours, you just listen. In the back, a plastic tape case shifts slightly on the shelf, as if nudged by a breath you can't hear. It rights itself moments later, moving with a kind of gentle persistence, like the building breathing softly in its sleep. You sit down in the worn chair behind the counter, legs stretching out and body relaxing into the stillness. Your hands rest easily in your lap, fingers loosely intertwined. You exhale slowly, letting go of a breath you didn't realize you'd been holding all day. The air feels thick and calm, settled into a peaceful rhythm. Outside, the night has fully wrapped around the quiet streets. A breeze stirs the street lamp on the corner, making its warm light ripple gently through the store's front windows. A moth floats lazily in spirals around the lamp, casting shifting shadows that dance softly across the floor. The town is folded in on itself, quiet and steady, like a well-read book closed with care. No footsteps echo. No engines hum. Just the calm weight of stillness. Your eyes wander to the counter where your hands rest. There's a fine crack running through the laminate, a tiny fault line between the faded returns and late fees stickers. You've never noticed it before, but now it's a quiet landmark, a small imperfection that speaks of time passing without haste or drama. It exists without explanation or apology, just like everything else in this place. You shift slightly, the vinyl of the chair creaking softly beneath you. There's no rush here. No closing bell or last customer to hurry out. You could stay like this, sinking further into the calm. You could drift off right here, wrapped in the gentle familiarity of this space. The air feels even stiller now, each sound folding inward and softening, until the hum of the lights blends seamlessly with the soft static from the television. The edges of the room blur, and your thoughts drift like dust motes caught in the beams of light. Memories surface quietly, not sharp or urgent, but gentle and steady, like the soft footprints left in the dust. A faint creak from the doorframe behind you catches your attention, but you don't turn. The building breathes quietly in its own way, not empty, but full of rest and waiting. You think of the people who used to walk through these doors. The regulars, the occasional visitors, the curious teenagers and tired parents. The steady rhythm of footsteps on tile, the soft click of plastic cases opening, the rustle of rental slips being written. All of it feels distant now, like a whisper from another time, but it still pulses beneath the surface, alive within the walls and shelves. You breathe deeply, feeling the weight of those memories settle softly in your chest. Your breathing slows naturally, deepening without effort. The floor beneath your feet is solid and steady, warm in the patches where sunlight once caught the tiles, cool in the shaded corners. The scent of the store fills your senses, a familiar blend of old plastic, faded paper receipts, the faintest trace of popcorn long past its prime, and the intangible weight of years. Your eyes close briefly, The posters curling on the walls, the stacks of tapes neatly lined up on shelves, the chipped mug resting near the register, all fold gently into the quiet. The room breathes with you, folding itself into the soft rhythms of this moment. There's no thought of tomorrow or yesterday. No worry or expectation. The story here does not end. It simply quiets and settles, like a whispered lullaby sung by the hum of the old electronics and the gentle ticking clock. You lean back, sinking deeper into the chair's familiar embrace. Your body feels heavy and calm, as if the years you've spent here are melting into the stillness around you. Time folds over itself, becoming something slow and steady and almost tactile. Outside, the moth continues its aimless dance around the street lamp, floating and spiraling in a quiet orbit. It doesn't seem concerned where it's going or if it will land. It just moves with the breeze, carried by a rhythm it doesn't need to understand. Your eyes flutter closed again, and the world fades inward. The weight of everything that has happened here settles like sediment in a deep, calm lake. You are surrounded by stories, the ones told on screen, whispered between visitors, and held silently between the walls and shelves. They have passed through this space like seasons turning, leaving behind only faint traces and echoes. You rest in the stillness, holding no expectations. No unfinished tasks. No lingering doubts. Just the quiet pulse of now, the fading light, and the gentle comfort of a place that has been home. Your breath deepens and slows, falling into a steady rhythm with the soft hum and flicker. The silence grows fuller and more complete with every passing second, wrapping around you like a blanket woven from all the moments you've spent here. There is a softness in the air, a kindness to the darkness that grows just outside the windows. The street lamp's glow spills gently into the room, bathing everything in warm light. The ticking clock's sound fades until it is nearly imperceptible, like a heartbeat slowing to rest. You feel the space close in around you, not tightly, but like a tender fold, a place to rest, to be still, and to simply exist. The lines between past and present blur and soften, leaving only this moment suspended in quiet. You imagine the stories held in these walls, the laughter, the whispers, the brief exchanges and the long silences. You think about how all of that has shaped this place, just as this place has shaped you. Your body feels heavy but light at once. Every muscle lets go, sinking deeper into calm. Your mind slows, shedding the last pieces of tension like old clothes. The world beyond this room blurs further until it feels distant and gentle, like a fading dream. You are here. Still. No rush. No demand. Just soft quiet and steady breath. The tapes wait patiently on their shelves, their stories told and retold, now resting like old friends. The light hums softly. The moth continues its slow dance outside, unaware of endings or beginnings. You close your eyes fully now, allowing the quiet to carry you, a gentle tide pulling you toward rest. There is no need to wake. No need to move. Just this moment, held softly in time, a quiet drift into the night.